My mother, she had me at 15. She was a very sought after model. And she chose to have a baby. Me. Why would she do that? Is she crazy? I would never give up my damn modeling career to be nobody's mammy. Carl was there for me when I was escaping the clutches of my first husband, Larry Woods, offering an abundance of love and protection that I sorely needed at the time. We were tight and had a good thing going until the Pointer Sisters exploded. Carl was friendly with Lenny Williams, the lead vocalist for Tower of Power. They used to sing together in high school, so he wasn't totally unfamiliar with the music scene and intimately knew the ups and downs of the business. Carl hadn't been nuts about me joining my sisters in the group when they initially approached me. "Don't count your chickens before they hatch," he warned when I first broached the idea. "Well, I did some sessions and made some nice money," I reminded him. "It's much easier than my current job, and now we have a second record deal. I think I'm going to give it a shot." Carl began to resent that I wasn't around so much for him, and to really resent the kicks I was having on the road. Girl, by kicks you mean partying? When people made a fuss over me, Carl would put me down or say or do something idiotic to call attention to himself. I'd take him on press junkets to studio sessions and backstage on TV shows, and he'd embarrass me or just get pissed off and act like it was all an inconvenience. The green-eyed monster. Sometimes he'd just stay in our hotel room and watch TV while I did my thing, and eventually I started preferring that arrangement myself. I think it also boiled down to that Carl was scared to death of becoming known as Mr. Pointer, and that would be a tough pill for any man to swallow. I mean, why not? He messed with June first. Would he had been okay if he was Mr. June Pointer? The comments corrected me and said that Ruth was on the Wendy Williams show, and she was the one who said that we're sisters that work together. We don't call each other every day and, just talk on the phone. We have our own separate lives. So with that being said by Miss Ruth, I understand why the situation happened where Miss Ruth was able to take Miss June's boyfriend and be so cavalier about it. It seems like that was their dynamic from day one, or at least Ruth's dynamic with her sisters, because I believe Anita was closer to the sisters than Miss Ruth was. But there were more important considerations. Shortly after Carl and I got married in November 1973, I became pregnant. The Pointer Sisters were riding the crest of our first wave of fame. We were in the midst of recording our second album, planning a live recording at the San Francisco Opera House, our first Las Vegas engagement, and a musical festival in Zaire, Africa. We were booked solid for the entire year, and at that time I felt that I had no time for a child. And I sure as hell didn't want to be the one responsible for stalling the Pointer Sisters' momentum by going on maternity leave. You know how many groups that was a problem in? Was it Rolls Royce, where the lady wanted to have a baby and they were like encouraging her to terminate the pregnancy? Girl, you about to mess up our money. Same thing I told you, my mother, she had me at 15. She was a very sought after model when she was very young. And she chose to have a baby. Me. Why would she do that? Is she crazy? I would never give up my damn modeling career to be nobody's mammy. But child, according to her, she was in love. Carl rode with me to the hospital where the pregnancy was terminated. He cried the entire time. Miss Ruth said she's okay, woo, 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 but she ain't shed a tear. Because she had something bigger and greater out there that was beyond his feelings. Nigga, right now I'm a pointer sister, not your wife. I'm trying to get to the money. David pulled out all the stops for the Pointer Sisters' sophomore effort. LA collection of vintage pop, swing, jazz, R&B, and country songs. The album That's a Plenty continued us in the jazz baby eon high camp direction he had mapped out for us. I went along with some reservations. The new songs just didn't move me. Believe it or not, the main criticism aimed at the Pointer Sisters in the early stages of our career was that we didn't sound black enough. I don't know what the hell that means. What concerned me musically was that we were so enmeshed in using our voices as musical instruments, offering up an array of styles and avoiding getting labeled, that we lost focus on what made us so effective as sisters, rocking hard and singing deep from the soul. I could understand David's point of view. He wanted to stick with a formula that had most certainly worked for us. It succeeded and generated money. That sound and image he pushed established us. But I didn't want it to strictly define us then and forever. My fear was that if it was already getting stale for me, the public would eventually feel the same way about it. I was a team player and chose not to rock the boat. That would occur much later. There was no doubting that from a show business standpoint, David was a freaking genius. The nostalgia razzmatazz appealed to the masses and certainly made us stand out from the other musical acts of the day. That's a Plenty was even more diverse than our debut album, delved further into our multiplicity and inventiveness of musical styles, and included songs by Duke Ellington, Dizzy Gillespie, and Peggy Lee. Bonnie sang Peggy Lee's Black Coffee on the album and in our live show. It was as if she channeled the spirits of Billie Holiday. She just killed that song. The album demonstrated our vocal virtuosity and sonic savoir-faire. It also showcased our famous array of musical styles, but this time there was one difference. Nestled between the finger-snapping jazz of Little Pony and the mood scat of Black Coffee was a bona fide country western tune, Fairy Tale, written by my sisters, Anita and Bonnie. It became the Pointer Sisters' second top 20 hit and garnered us our first Grammy in 1975 for Best Country Performance by a Group or Duo. Okay? Bonnie and Anita also earned a Songwriter of the Year nomination. A year later, Elvis Presley covered Fairy Tale on his album Elvis Today. He performed it in concert right up to his death and often introduced it as the story of his life. No one was prouder of my two sisters than me. Fairy Tale's out of left field success made us the toast of Music City. We were invited to sing at the Grand Ole Opry later that year, making us the first black female act to perform at the Mother Church of country music. When we took the Opry stage, there was an older gentleman dressed in a cowboy hat, checkered shirt, and blue jeans, sitting in the front, whose eyes almost bugged out of his head. "Hot damn," he shouted. "Them gals is black. Sing it again." And we did. We sang Fairy Tale in its entirety once more. That was the first. Those country people don't play. You better believe it. I love the South. I do. I miss home like a motherfucker, but I definitely love the South. It was without a doubt the greatest night of our professional lives. live at the Opera House was released later that fall. If I can toot my own horn, it remains an awe-inspiring, indispensable recording of four sisters in their prime. Around that time, Carl and I were able to rent a home in Sausalito, as did Anita. Bonnie and June upgraded their digs as well, but opted to remain in San Francisco. Even more satisfying, all four of us sisters chipped in to buy our parents a home in picturesque Nevada, about 30 miles north of San Francisco in Marin County. The 4-bedroom home enabled everyone, my parents, Fawn, Malik, and Anita's daughter, Jada, to live under one roof. My hope was that Fawn and Malik were finally going to have some stability in their lives after years of being uprooted and moved around. Every time I read about this situation that happened with their father, it just makes me so salty. But it happens in all jobs, where they just wake up one day and be like, we need to cut the budget. You're out. And because the father was so old and he had been so used to doing one particular thing his whole life, it was hard for him to acclimate himself to a different type of employment. Therefore, the mother became employed as, I think, a janitor. I don't know if they call it a female's janitor, but with environmental services. So she pretty much was the breadwinner. And the father just could not mentally get himself together enough to obtain gainful employment. Plus, he was older. I think that is like the most devastating thing for a job to do. The person is past their prime. They just trying to ride their wave on out of here. Ever since Dad's ouster from the Church of God, my mother had worked full-time as a janitor in a public library to help make ends meet. Even more than the personal drama and substance abuse issues in my life, the toughest thing to endure at that time was watching our parents spend their golden years working themselves to the bone and getting in virtual poverty. To buy them a decent place to live was one of the most satisfying and personally fulfilling things we ever did. I'll tell you what else was very satisfying. Now that we were the world famous Pointer Sisters, guess what? The Church of God, or the niggas over there, the Church of the niggas over there, they wanted the Pointer Sisters to perform for them at a benefit concert. How friggin' dare you bitches to ask moi, me and my sisters, the ones who pappy you fired because you felt like me and my sisters was harlots, and you want us to perform for a benefit concert for you bitches? Answer no. I told those holier than thou hypocrites to kiss ... when they came sucking up to us. God Almighty, it felt great. I bet it did. You know that king of the mountain stuff I was rapping about last chapter? Well, it sure didn't take long for the Pointer Sisters to head down the other side of that mother, head over heels. Pride is a dangerous commodity, and in the music business, that's what it is, a commodity. It's bought and sold, used and abused. It's guaranteed to make money, and it's guaranteed to leave you more than arrogant. It's the you that you leave behind to lighten your load as you trek up the mountain, where the views from the top are both magnificent and perilous, reserved for an elect few. You get to look down at the rest of the world, and for a moment you sigh, soaking it all in, feeling blessed until you realize that you've shared the things you've held dear in your life. Your morals, your values, your family, and your friends. Just say that you love me. Okay. But I don't believe it. I don't believe you. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. Yeah. Just say that you love me. Yeah, but I don't believe that shit. I don't believe you. You out here playing with me something.
Bye.